they're like, oh, I hear that it's, works way good for pain. So they're going and getting either the free sample or they're trying it. And these people were never addicted to their opioids before, but they are now addicted to 7-OH. They
Oh,
cannot
wow.
go more than 2 hours without chewing that chemically made pill. And it breaks my heart because these are grannies. These are grandmas and grandpas that are privately reaching out to me. And they're like, I don't know what to do, Misty. I can't tell my kids. I can't tell my grandkids. And it breaks my heart. Cause I'm like, you're in your like late 60s and you never experienced active addiction, but here you are on something that was sold to you as a more potent form of kratom. It breaks my
Oh, no.
heart.
This is True Voice Unfiltered, the podcast where raw truth meets real transformation. I'm your host, Daria Anne, ghostwriter, content strategist, and holistic health warrior. No, I'm not a doctor, nurse, nutritionist, or any kind of medical professional, and this show does not dispense medical advice. I'm just an informed patient sharing what I've learned on my own healing journey. I also interview accomplished authors, speakers, entrepreneurs, and functional medicine practitioners who are transforming lives. If you're ready to break free from the sick care system, reclaim your health, and transform your life, you're in the right place. Let's get unfiltered.
John and Misty, welcome to True Voice Unfiltered. I am so excited to have you both here today.
Hi.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for
Glad to
having
be
me.
here.
Awesome. Okay, well, why don't we do ladies first? I want each of you to tell your story. We're here today talking about kratom. This is kind of, I guess, the third in a series I've been doing on this topic, and you two are highly recommended. So, Misty, let's start with you. Tell us your kratom story and why it's so important to you to keep it available to Americans.
I survived the overprescribing opioid epidemic. My active addiction years was from 2008 to 2019. I was going to chronic pain management for my degenerative disc disease in my back and my hips actually. And back then, you were able to go to as many doctors as you wanted, as many pharmacies as you wanted. There was no way to check that. One doctor I could pay cash for, the other doctor I could go through my insurance. Same way with the pharmacies. And I used to be prescribed a lot of pain medications specifically. So I was about in my late 20s. So I was about 28, 29 when my dependency slid into the addiction side. And I know now that I was doing that to self medicate, like, mental trauma, emotional trauma, and then my pain, on top of that. So in June of 2019, actually, let me back it up. In April of 2019, I was fired from my chronic pain doctor because I didn't show up for a per contract pill count. I went to the doctors a couple days before that and they said, "Hey, we're calling you in. You got to come in and get your pills counted." And I was 11 pills short by that time already. And none of my drug dealers had any in the pink Oxy 10s, so I couldn't, to make up for the amount that I already overtook. And so I thought, okay, I was actually at jury duty when they called me, and I said, I can't make it in today. They said, okay, we'll give you 24 hours to come in. I just didn't show up, because I thought that was my first pill count. I thought, okay, they're just going to give me a slap on the wrist. They're going to give me a warning, what have you. That no, they fired me. And so in the midst of me trying to find another pain doctor, I went to the streets and started doing cocaine. I was going to do heroin, but I was trying to rationalize in my brain thinking, okay, I can snort some heroin. I'm not heroin. I can snort some coke, and that's safer than injecting heroin, you know, because I was already snorting my pills at that time. So I was already used to that behavior. And so in June of 2019 was when I came across that documentary, A Leaf of Faith. It was on Netflix at the time. And I was going through my cocaine withdrawal. And I was like, I got nothing else to lose. Why not go try this? So the next day I went to the smoke shop and I bought some kratom, whole leaf kratom. And that's when my journey began. I
Huh.
was like, the thing that got to me, the very first thing that happened to me when I took it, there was no high feeling that I got. I was expecting that, but there was no high. It wasn't until I went to bed that night where I was like, I didn't crave any cocaine. I didn't crave any pills. I wasn't in my phone trying to call the million drug dealers that I had, be like, hey, you got some on deck, anything like that. So I made dinner for my kids. I cleaned my house. I did laundry. I was listening to music, so that was the very first thing. And now that today, now that I know all the science behind kratom, what it did for me was it pressed pause in my brain. It was like, you tell it, pump the brakes, Misty, pump the brakes. And so throughout that whole time of me transitioning from active addiction into recovery to being a recovered person with substance use disorder, I I I, I stand by that today. I am recovered. I am no longer in recovery because along the way in my almost 7 years of consuming kratom, you get temptations. You have temptations in your face. You have it in front of you, and not once did I ever think, "Let me go try some. Let me go get blasted tonight." Some anything like that. So that's how my journey began.
Excellent. And you are in Michigan, right, Misty? Just to
I'm in Colorado.
You're in Colorado. Okay, so we're going to come back to that. So, John, tell us your story, where you're from, how you came to discover kratom.
Well, in a nutshell, I grew up in Richmond, Virginia, and when I was 21, I enlisted in the Marine Corps, and by that time I was what I call a full blown addict. Active addiction, 10 years. On a 10-year run, I call it. Um, not so much a low bottom, what we call low bottom criminal justice guy. I'm couch surfing, sleeping in bushes on the bridges from town to town. But anyways, I ended up in the Marine Corps. I took my addiction with me. 2.5 years into my 4-year enlistment, after 12 times of being arrested, 4 times in foreign countries, 5 Article 15s, my battalion commander finally said, "Look, you going to rehab or you going to the brig?" And I knew about the brig, so I said, "Well, hell to rehab, I'll go there." And August 10th, 1982, I began my recovery journey from addiction and alcoholism. And I've been clean and sober ever since. So I got 43 years in recovery right now.
Congratulations. That's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. But I've always been very, very active. I never was one to fall for the stigma associated with addiction because I didn't care who saw me out there. If they had a gotcha magazine back then, I wouldn't have cared if I was in it or not. So I never bought into the anonymity piece, but I was very well known for the recovery guy in my town. Was a paint contractor for 30 years, had thousands of customers, did very, very well. Everybody knew if anybody had a problem with drugs or alcohol, send them to John. I'm a 12-stepper, constantly going to meetings and I had a spiritual awakening as a result of those steps. I found my true purpose was real, I'm a hope dealer. I give hope and I help people. 2004, me and my wife founded the McShin Foundation in Richmond, Virginia. This was at the height of the stigma, no services, no insurance coverage for treatment or rehab. Just lock them up. Something special about me is I always read the paper, so I'm very well read. I've stayed up with current events my entire life. I have over 50 years experience with our drug war in America. So I devour content, I devour information, I watch every documentary I can about everything. We start this recovery center. I opened my first sober house in 1985, so I was also known as the mayor of sober homes in Richmond. And so I knew when we built up this recovery center, real simple. Any addict, alcoholic, anytime you ask for help, you can come to us and we're going to do our best. The recovery center, we started in a 56 square foot office, but when I retired 2 years ago, we have a 15,000 square foot facility. I left them with 17 sober homes. 7 of them were bought and paid for, a couple of $1 million into charity, government contracts to do jail work, prison work, reentry work. I was very active in policy and lawmaking. We started an advocacy movement, Faces and Voices of Recovery. I was very instrumental in helping Virginia. We got the Narcan bill passed, one of the first red states, got Medicaid expanded. I helped my wife, she's now a retired congressional lobbyist, worked 30 years on Capitol Hill with the mental health and addiction industry. We helped get the 2008 mental health addiction parity bill passed. We helped get it under the Affordable Care Act as one of the 10 essential benefits. The bottom line is, I know what time of day it is. Around 2012, 2014, when we started doing confirmation drug testing in our recovery center, them came up on our radar. I didn't know not much about it. I figured it was like bath salts, because they were selling it next to bath salts in the vape store and stuff. And just backing up a little bit, in 2004, we integrated buprenorphine as a 5-day detox protocol for opiate addicts in our recovery center. So I knew about, these multiple pathways to recovery. They were percolating and emerging. I'm listening, you know what I mean? I'm not scared of multiple pathways. I'm not scared of absence-based pathways. The Kratom
Had a
boys,
nice
you couldn't tell they were on anything. I asked them, "Why do you take it?" They said, "Well, it helps me not use drugs. It helps me not wanna do opiates. It helps me with my anxiety and all that good stuff." And, I've always followed the cannabis people. I knew cannabis had great value with helping people, and I knew about microdosing, mushrooms, and, I knew about Bill Wilson doing the clinical trials in the '60s with LSD. I'm not scared of that,
So in 2016, what happened?
Okay, what we did, we took 30 addicts. It took us 6 months, but we found 30 opiate addicts. We gave them a week in sober living, access to Kratom, see if they could use that to detox. Well, they did. 29 out of 30 successfully used it, and I'm thinking, my God, this stuff is great, you don't have to worry
Yeah.
about these other drugs. Well, at the same time, they expanded Medicaid, and now we got a Suboxone clinic on every corner. And back then, you gotta realize when they shut down those pill mills, those legitimate chronic pain people found Kratom. When the Veterans
Yeah.
Administration couldn't service the vets properly for the first 10 years of the returning vets, they were referring these vets to Kratom. So and I'm thinking, and then I started educating myself. I started reading. I've read those 600 scientific studies done on kratom. I've read every summary there is. I started attending kratom conferences, the International Kratom Symposium, and I started, paying attention to these scientists doing all this work. So I thought this is great, man. I'm thinking, hell, you could have standalone recovery centers integrate kratom as a detox product, use cannabis, set up cannabis houses and plant recovery systems. Well, at the same time, because I'm visionary and I try anything, and I'm listening to the federal people, we got to throw everything at this opiate epidemic, including the kitchen sink. We got to try every pathway. So, plant pathway is a legitimate pathway. But then I found out that the FDA hates plants. Nobody wants to do plants because they can't capitalize on it. You can't
Right.
patent plants for
Can't
medicine.
patent natural
So
things. Yep.
and then I realized then I studied the FDA and why they're even in existence. And what we have is our country boxes everybody into a corner. We paint ourselves into a corner, and we forget all about plant medicine that's been around way before the FDA.
Oh, yeah.
And then as we prove this stuff works, their response is they demonize plants. They
Mhm.
stigmatize people. They want everybody to drink their Kool-Aid, and then they buy these
Well,
policymakers into it. So we got a real propaganda problem. We have a real manipulation
yeah.
problem. And when I retired from McShin, I went full-time advocate, harm reduction advocate. And now I'm the director of advocacy director for the American Veterans for Kratom Safe. And my job is like Misty, we just educate people. And everywhere we educate people, we get a wonderful result. But a lot of people don't want the education because they want to be stayed stuck on their ideology. They don't want to know the science. So
Right.
we're
Well,
dealing with a
yeah.
lot of ignorance out there. So
Yeah.
that's the short of it. And
Well, I also think we're dealing with regulatory capture, speaking of the FDA, because they are right now, just as a side note, trying to ban natural desiccated thyroid, which I happen to take, which has been around since the late 1800s and has been helping patients safely ever since. So that's one of the reasons why I'm so interested in this cause, because to just let people suffer in pain and just take away something that's safe for them. And I know Melody was telling me your story was pretty dramatic. Like if you hadn't found that smoke shop and found kratom, you guys say it kratom, so I'll stick with kratom. That's a pronunciation. Like, tell us about that because that's huge. And you made a huge point by saying it didn't make me high, it just helped my pain.
Yeah, so when I went to the smoke I wasn't on in my active addiction years, I didn't get on social media till 2018. So I didn't know anything about Kratom. I didn't know, I knew nothing about it. I didn't even know it was here on this earth, because I always say to myself that if I would have known about Kratom sooner, I would have gotten on it sooner. I would have tried to help my parents with it, all that stuff. So by me just by happenstance watching that documentary, A Leaf of Faith that night, and then seeing it and then being like, because walking into the smoke shop the next day, that's what started my journey because I wasn't on social media, and I wouldn't have known to how, to order it online, to find all these, GMP vendors. I knew nothing about that. So just by me casually walking into a smoke shop, and it was in a glass case, it was behind the counter in a glass case. I had to show my ID to get it, you know. It irks the crap out, excuse me, but it irks the crap out of me when I hear legislators talking about kids getting their hands on it. Like, if kids are getting their hands on kratom, for one, parents need to parent their kids, or two, they need to go after like the gas station attendant or the smoke
Right.
shop clerk. You know, who- it's nasty. Kratom is
Well,
nasty.
yeah, here what these policymakers don't understand, these kids are chasing a get high of some kind.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It seems to always be the chemical products, the adulterated stuff, not the real natural. Most kids try
Yes.
natural kratom, they ain't gonna do it twice because it tastes like shit and it makes them throw up. So, but that's another technique that these bureaucrats and these
Yeah.
haters they use that they call everything kratom, and it's not even kratom. They can't even get the name right of the product, and they know they're doing it, but they don't care. They're
yeah,
Yeah.
that mean spirited and that single
Oh,
focus.
yeah. Listen.
And I'm one of the few people I know. I studied kratom for 12 years. I looked at it. I saw everything I thought there is to know about it. Remember, I'm abstinence-based recovery. I don't do nothing, right? Well, John Hopkins, they had clinical trials. And I wanted to see if it's true that a low serving of kratom can help you with pain because I'm 68 years old. I got every pain issue you can have with the body. And I got 20 different things. I can't pronounce what I got. I the study. So I participated in the study. And I took basically a gram 4 times a day. And man, I could work my arthritis, my neuropathy, my osteoporosis, my joint pain. It knocked the pain back. I haven't taken an Aleve or ibuprofen. Maybe once a year I take it. And
Yeah.
it allowed me to work all day. And then my job was to after 9 months, I did a sudden detox, right? And I did not have no classical withdrawal symptoms whatsoever. I did not have a mental obsession to go smoke weed, drop acid, drink liquor, ruin my life. None of that happened to me. So, I'm here to say this is bull what they're saying. But I
Yeah.
do understand that if I were to take a bunch of it, which I know better not to, I understand I may have gotten a little bump. I understand you can't get but so high if you do take it. And I understand that could release my obsession to get high and take me down active addiction again. But my recovery's so strong, I know better than that. So I don't do that. And after 43 plus years in recovery, I've had operations, I've had pain meds, I've had all that shit. And none of that
Yeah.
made me want to relapse either. And I do not like the way these guys are overprescribing anything they can overprescribe. Traditionally, they're going to do it, and I don't like that because they all have warning labels that are way worse than kratom labels. So
Right.
we are being hoodwinked, and
Right.
people are swallowing the information as if it's
yeah.
gospel when it's
Yeah.
not.
Because
Yeah.
what's
Well,
being I'm sorry, Daria.
no, let's just talk about that though. Let's talk about why they're conflating. Let's talk about 7-OH, right? What that is and why they're conflating that with kratom and just
Well,
saying
well,
it's all
well
bad.
my quick
I'm sorry.
Yeah, my quick take, and then Misty can have her take.
Okay.
The way I see it, number one, 7-OH is a get high product, the way I see it. And these addiction doctors, it's bad enough that they're losing business from addicts that want to try kratom before they try Suboxone, doctor. The FDA, they don't make any money on these plants. So if you got 20 million consumers consuming kratom, a natural plant, then they're not taking 2, 3 prescriptions a day. Well, that adds up. And we're also in our treatment center industry is overbuilt right now. There's not enough customers for the facilities they got right now. So a month rehab that will take it, but if you use Medicaid, there's not enough customers for these Medicaid providers. They're ginning up. Kratom is a
Yeah.
marketing tool. And what makes it easy is the 7-OH products that they're calling Kratom. It's
Yep.
absurd, you know. Misty, what do you got to say?
That's how it was. So 7OH was mass produced to the public in September of 2023, and it's been sold. It's then and now it's still being sold as a kratom product. So it's hoodwinking people. It's duping people into believing that this is a more potent form of kratom, and it starts off with a free sample. Like, there's even a billboard in Missouri or Kansas, like, one of the biggest 7OH manufacturers out here has a billboard saying, "Text this number for a free sample." You know,
Oh god.
and they're giving
And you
away a
know,
free sample at the smoke shops, you know? And it's
Yeah.
like, that right there is typical drug dealer behavior. Like what 11 years of my drug addiction, that whenever I'd go to these drug dealers' houses, they'd be like they would show me, they would be like, "Here, take this, try
eh,
this." You
now
know?
now to add insult to injury, these poor parents that think their kid died of kratom when they didn't, and
Right.
these lawyers, they got these big lawsuits where they're getting 10 million a pop from kratom companies.
Mhm.
So I saw this with the OxyContin epidemic in the Sackler family, that you get all these families out there. Number one, they think kratom was the problem when it wasn't, and they want to turn their pain into passion. So these kratom danger people, they have an unlimited supply of angry parents that will commit their life and their resources to put kratom out of business, totally totally neglecting the fact that, truthfully, 97% of the consumers, they have no issue. They're not ruining their life. Veterans, chronic
Right.
pain people, but they're willing to throw the baby out with the bathwater because they don't care, and that's just wrong.
No, it's terrible. I hate that people are suffering. I recently did a Kratom panel with Laura Romney, Heidi Sakura, and Melody Wolf. And one of the things that Laura brought up was that if you take too much of it, it makes you sick. Like she said, people actually could vomit. So it's almost like it self regulates because
It
It
is.
most
is.
people only need a little bit. And I know it's individualized, it depends on the person. But can you speak to that a little bit,
Yeah.
Misty? Like as far
And
as a dosage?
yeah, because, as I said, when I was transitioning from active addiction into my recovery phase, my behaviors, habits, routines, and rituals were still in full force. Because I used to pop pills every 2 to 3 hours, and that whole hand to mouth motion, you know. And so when I started taking kratom, I found myself trying to find that high. And at one point in time, I was at 5 teaspoons 5 times a day. But there was a couple times there that you take too much and it's exorcist puke. There is no there is no way to stop it, and then you puke and then you feel better afterwards. You
Now,
know,
Yeah.
yeah, it is also true that
Mhm.
if you consume too much too often because you're chasing that little bit of a high, you can absolutely get dependent on it, and
yeah.
you're gonna have to take more to get the same effect. And keep in mind, I did 4 grams a day for 9 months, had no withdrawal detox, classical symptoms at all. So here I am surrounded by the occasional addict that they get up to 150 grams a day. So when they go to quit, they do experience an opioid withdrawal symptoms, because at that level, kratom can act as a partial agonist. If you take but so much, it can actually act. That's why you get that buprenorphine effect. But if you take a ton of the 7-OH products, it crosses the line to the other opioid receptor that does act like, morphine
Yeah.
opiate. So
Well,
there's
agonists.
truth to that, but that's for the population that knowingly and willingly chooses to get addicted. And then they want to
Yeah.
blame something, but it's almost it's very few people would ever do that with the natural plant. But because it does exist, they want to use that as a nuclear weapon against
Well,
all of the
Yeah.
products. And it's just
so they try
wrong.
to let millions of people suffer with pain because of a small minority of people that might abuse it.
Exactly.
Ridiculous.
And honestly, Daria, it works the same way for the whole opioid epidemic. I was part of that population that abused, and misused my medication. And now today, because of my actions, chronic pain patients can't get the medications that they've used for years and never abused, never were addicted. I've always I will always have that guilt with me, you know. But then again, I'm like, but back in my day, I was getting like 320 oxycodones a month, on top of getting, Vicodins or Lortab. So I so I always say that I was given the keys to the addiction bus and I drove that bus. you know but still I feel so bad for the chronic pain patients today. So the best thing that I can do, I'm not going to willow around in my guilt, but the best thing that I can do is just continue to advocate about kratom. Be like, and for like, I am shocked just to this day, almost 7 years later, how well kratom works for my chronic pain versus the pain medication.
Yep.
Like, it is
And
night and day.
yeah.
It is just like,
Mm.
it still blows my mind.
And there's another caveat that people wanna over exaggerate. Yes, there is a 10% dependent profile with natural kratom consumers, but you think about it for a minute. Okay, somebody's doing 15, 20, 30 grams a day. They use it to solve their problems, okay? Whether it be chronic pain or replacement therapy, instead of being on methadone or
Mhm.
buprenorphine, Suboxone, knowing what the long-term effects are. But if you try to quit methadone or Suboxone overnight, you're going to have withdrawal symptoms.
Right.
Same with some of these dependent people. But you, with kratom, you can actually take less over a period of time, and you don't experience these other the classic withdrawal
Yeah.
symptoms. But the point is back to this: what's wrong with being dependent on kratom if it's fixing you and solving your problem, just like methadone or Suboxone and insulin and other medications you take for your quality of life? That's not a bad thing all the time.
And, like,
Right.
for
Well, it's bad.
me,
Yeah. Go ahead, Missy. Sorry. Yeah.
when I was taking 5 teaspoons 5 times a day, I was in Facebook support groups at the time, and I kept seeing signs of people that's been, like, OG kratom consumers for a long time, that they kept saying, "Less is more, less is more, less is more." And I took that as, like, a universal sign to apply it to my consumption. And so then I went from 5 teaspoons 5 times a day to 2 teaspoons twice a day. I kept forgetting my second dose. So that right there to me, I'm like, where's the addicted? Well, I'm not addicted.
Sure.
If I forgot, I'm not
You
addicted.
know, you know,
And also,
I
it works, right? It also works
yeah,
because you weren't in pain. Therefore, you didn't take the second dose, right? I
Yes,
mean, you forgot
exactly.
because you didn't need it.
yeah,
So then I was like, okay, I'm going to challenge myself further. So I scratched that second dose off of my schedule, and then I went to 1 teaspoon once a day. I have been at 1 teaspoon once a day since 2021. So then I challenged myself further in 2023 because I wanted, because with my social media advocacy, I hear about, oh, the withdrawals, the withdrawals. So I challenged myself further and I started taking days off every week. So since I was at 1 teaspoon once a day, I started taking 1 day off a week. Then I did 2 days off the next week, and then 3 days off the next week. So since 2023, I've been at 1 teaspoon once a day, and I take 1 to 4 days off every week. I do not have withdrawals. I do not crave it. And this is coming from somebody who was trapped in active addiction for 11 years straight.
Yeah. That's
here,
So
incredible.
yeah,
it's like,
yeah.
go ahead, John.
Let me add value. See, I still help addicts and alcoholics every day. I still go to my 12-step meetings. I still go to jails and prisons. Nothing stopped for me except the harm reduction advocacy. That's what I'm doing more of. I'm helping a kid right now. He was doing 50 grams a day, a college student. He's studying to be a chemist, and he's trying to stop. He's been slowly over a 6-month period, slowly doing less each week. And we talked the other day. I think he's down to like 8 grams a day, 2, 4, 6, 8, 4 times a day. And he's telling me, he said, I said, less is best, ain't it? He said, damn, John, you're not gonna believe it, but the level I'm taking now has more effect than it was when I was doing the 40 grams a day. So there's
Yep.
so much
Amazing.
truth to that. And another
Yeah.
fellow, I helped a doctor one time. He got up to 150 grams a day, and he was getting down good. He ends up in a Suboxone doctor. He said that really wrecked him bad. But now he just steadily takes 20 grams a day, and he don't have a problem or an issue at all. Is he still dependent? Yes, but it gives him the quality of life he wanted in the first place. So
Yeah.
Mhm.
this is not the end of the world for people here. People overhype this, and there's a way to do it. Now, if you're doing a lot and then you got to do a stop, then yes, that's when these Suboxone swoop in. They put you on, no exit ramp Suboxone indefinitely. And and one other kid I can tell you about, a very close friend of mine. He ain't done opiates in 8 years, 7 years. He was doing his regular kratom, no problem at all. And then a couple of years ago, when 708 came out, they gave him some free samples at the smoke
Yep.
shop. He said, John, within 3 months, I'm spending $200 a day on
Yep.
708. And
Wow.
I said, man, you better go see a Suboxone doctor. That shit's free. He's got Medicaid. So now he's on Suboxone, doesn't cost him a penny. But he says, I hate the way it feels, but I'm saving money. I'm not strung out on 708. And it's like, well, yeah, maybe you should have stuck with the kratom in the first place. So there is a lot to learn. I agree with everybody, but they can't say we haven't studied it. 600
Right.
scientific studies, 300 peer reviewed. We got all the people like us out there. You can't say we don't know what time of day it is. That's bull.
Well, and in the panel, when I talked with those women, they were talking about how it's really getting banned at like very local and state levels. I mean, we were talking about the FDA, but for example, Heidi was telling me that she lives in Illinois.
Oh, New
Illinois
Jersey.
allows it. So she has to go from Wisconsin to Illinois, excuse me. Yeah, Wisconsin to Illinois to get the kratom, take it while she's there, if I'm understanding correctly, and then make sure there's no trace of it in her car before she gets in her car to take the trek back to Wisconsin. And I just think it's
Yeah.
crazy how even Sarasota County, they were telling me, I live in Florida, I'm not in Sarasota County, but like how they banned even using medicines like for first responders when they go to respond to a car accident and somebody's in horrific pain, all they can give them is Tylenol. And I'm like, this is insane. So
It's
can you talk
insane.
about
It's like
yeah.
now today, the stuff being overprescribed is, the MAT medication, Suboxone,
Yeah.
and then there's gabapentin, and then Tylenol, and
Well,
and
yeah, this is all a knee-jerk reaction of
yeah.
the hysteria pimped out by these mommies, ginned up by these trial attorneys. I
Oh yeah.
testified out west in a community, they're gonna ban kratom. At the end of this meeting, the chief of police, he said, well, we don't even have kratom in this community. We're just trying to get ahead of the curve. So they're in there saying all the same old talking points, and they didn't even have kratom in their community. And the media and the press, them, if it bleeds, it reads. They had this video going around of a
Yeah.
store robbed them, kratom, right? Well, we
It was
threw away,
708.
and it was 708. It wasn't even
It was
kratom.
708.
So
And the manipulation, the exploitation, the propaganda, it reminds me of Nazi Germany. Oh, and here's
yeah.
another thing. I said I knew about drug war and the history of our country. During Prohibition, it was
Yeah.
against the law to be arrested for consumption. It was only manufacturing and sales of alcohol. But now they're overnight, like in Tennessee, they're going to ban it, and then they got 75,000 daily kratom consumers overnight. They're going to take these good tax-paying veterans and turn them into felons overnight. All the
Yeah.
result of somebody's ideology.
It's
I heard it
outrageous.
was 500,000, not 75,000.
Well, yeah,
Oh
whatever
my
that
God.
number is, it may be
Yeah.
500,000.
It's crazy.
I
All right,
don't
so
care
let's
if
just
it
Brittany
I was gonna say,
doesn't
I
know
don't care
though.
if it
Go ahead, Misty. You don't care. I'm sorry.
I don't care if it's 500,000,
Right,
or one person,
right.
because we have the case of Marshall Price. He was arrested. So Kratom was saving him for 5 years from a 20-year, heroin addiction and probably, I believe, some other addictions as well. But it said he lived in Michigan, right? But he had to go back to Arkansas, where he was originally from, to do something else. And the only thing that him and his sister knew was that there was no kratom around him. Not everyday people thinks, "Oh, Google kratom near me." They just knew that,
Right.
okay, across the state line in Missouri, they're selling it, at this gas station. So he crosses the state line to Missouri to go get it, crosses back over and gets pulled over. Marshall was sentenced to 10 years in prison for having 200 grams of kratom. They charged him for drug trafficking. 3 weeks later, he was murdered in Greene
Oh my
County
god.
Jail in Arkansas while awaiting transport to start his 10-year sentence. Then we have the case of Shayna Brown, not related to me. Um, but she was in Florida and she crossed over into Alabama, Escambia County, Alabama, and there was a DUI checkpoint. And so they saw the kratom in the car. So they arrested her for that. She sat in her bond. She had 250 grams of kratom. Her bond was $1 million.
Oh, that's
And
outrageous.
so when I saw her case, I was like, we gotta do something. We gotta do something. So she had to sit in jail for 9 months until the judge would lower her bond enough to where, because we did a GoFundMe, we raised, funds to get her. When the judge finally lowered the bond to 75,000, we bonded her out and we hired her a new attorney. So she's out on bond right now. She's doing good in life, but she still has 10 to life hanging over her head.
Oh, no.
You know, the
So,
evidence the evidence is clear that the drug war laws have done more damage than the
Yeah,
drugs themselves. But it's like this nation
yeah.
hasn't learned from that. And until
No.
you care about it, you're going to go with the flow. So that's our big problem right now. And it's just disgusting the way
you
we
know what?
are
I know
as a
that you were recently in Tennessee, John, and I'm from Tennessee, but I live in Colorado, and I flew out there to on to attend the March 11th hearing, which didn't happen because of time constraints. But a lot of us, or a lot of us actually flew out there. But the couple hearings before you, John, the TBI guy, the Tennessee Bureau of Investigations guy, literally told those lawmakers, "Give us something to police." That right there still irks me today. Like, you have enough on your plate to police,
Yeah.
enough dangerous stuff out there to police, but you wanna
well,
take a tea leaf?
I
yeah,
was like,
I've,
well,
I've
it sounds like
surveyed.
there's a lot of local tyrants and people on power trips that have a little bit of power and it just goes to their head. And they have no clue what they're talking about, apparently. But
Well,
let's,
we don't
for
have.
anyone listening, though, wait, hold on. I want to make sure that people understand the difference. What is 7-OH versus kratom, and where are people getting 7-OH? I want to make that clear for anyone listening who's not sure about what we're talking about here. So,
Kratom is literally a leaf plucked from a tree in Southeast Asia. 7-OH, you will hear that 7-OH is an alkaloid from kratom. It is not an alkaloid from kratom. There is no 7-OH in the leaf itself. It only happens in minute amounts once it's plucked from the tree and it starts the oxidation process, like via sun or what have you. So, what some crafty little bathtub chemist decided to do was take a metragenine extract. Metragenine is the most abundant alkaloid in kratom. They take the metragenine extract and they pull the 7-OH from that, and then they amplify it using chemicals and other oxidizing
oh my
agents
God.
and all that stuff. So it's semi-synthetic slash synthetic because we don't actually know. We know
It's
that
a chemical.
Yeah.
It's 100% chemical. There's not enough biomass in the world to make the 7-OH products in the marketplace, and
yeah.
it's straight up chemical warfare. And the way the drug war goes, China's got 100 chemicals ready to roll out over the next 50 years. This stuff is coming from overseas, and it's the same old playbook. And the government's they playing whack-a-mole once again. But the point is that it accomplished the FDA's underlying hope. They let 708, they used it as a cudgel to reinforce their need to ban natural kratom leaf products. And they're
And
going
you
to
wanna
get
know
away with
why?
it.
In service to big pharma, right? Because you can't make
Right,
money off of a natural leaf.
exactly.
Yeah,
Because you can't patent nature. The only way you can
right.
patent nature is if it becomes a Schedule I drug first. Hence why,
Well,
cannabis was scheduled for a long time, and then they created medicine for, the seizure meds and all that stuff for that.
Yeah,
So
yeah, but that
that's
was synthesized too. That's a chemical too. That don't come from the plant.
yeah. But
well,
Marinol.
Well, I understood. I learned the difference between back in 2002 when I discovered natural progesterone from a yam versus progestin, which is the synthetic form, right? And that's when I discovered that natural things cannot be patented. And all of this comes down to money. I mean, it does, and I hate to say it, pharma lobbyists,
it is.
and who's paid off because no one. I'm sorry, but after 2020, if anyone can still believe that this government has anybody's best interest at heart, you're living in a delusion. And I say that with love.
Yeah, yeah.
I understand the programming because I was there. It's been a long awakening for me. But I mean, really, in 2026, when they were trying to force people to take something that has had, I'm not going to say the name of it because I don't want to get banned, that has been creating nothing but problems for people and turbo cancer. And like, if anybody believes anything, the government, and you believe they have your best interest at heart, like, I don't know, need to wake up.
Mhm.
It's time to wake
Li
up. And in this
lift
case,
the
what's that? Yeah,
lift the veil.
yeah, that's right, Misty. Lift the damn veil. I mean, it's
Yeah.
about time.
President Reagan's famous quote, "Hi, we're here from the government. We're here to help."
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, no. And I mean, and they don't care. I mean, the thing getting back to this issue though, they don't give a damn about what's the statistic with how many people are dealing with chronic pain? I mean, it's pretty high, right? In the United States alone.
I actually don't
Million.
know the statistic, but it's gotta be
I
in
want to
the
say 35 million. I think it's 35 million. I
Well,
think I heard that number.
that's a staggering number of people, and
Yeah.
they don't care that all these people are suffering with, I mean, really significant pain that even I can't say I understand it because I haven't had that, but I mean, I can appreciate it, and I feel for people who have, like, that nerve pain, like Laura was talking about the pain that she would have in her face, and I can't even imagine dealing with that, and I very much I mean, just a medical freedom advocate, and I believe people have the
You,
right to
you
use
got to get you got to
so
get that Claudia girl. Track her
Oh,
down.
yeah.
Claudia. Yeah,
Claudia
Misty will give
Morandi.
you. Yeah,
okay,
man. She's a beast when it comes to the chronic pain and plant medicine and all this
yeah,
other
well,
stuff. She's a
Yep.
star.
so
She represents the chronic pain community, the ones that been cut off from their pain medications, the ones that actually commit suicide, you
oh
know,
gosh, yeah,
because the doctors are too afraid to prescribe medications now, and like I say, the guilt part of me is like, "Man, I contributed to that." But the only way I can make up for it is to continue screaming from the rooftop that, "Hey, here's a plant that can do something better than a full agonist opioid," you know? But it's up to the people if they wanna try it or not? And the other thing that really pisses me off is that the people in the chronic pain community, they're seeing the 7-OH. They're like, "Oh, I hear that works way good for pain." So they're going and getting either the free sample or they're trying it, and these people were never addicted to their opioids before, but they are now addicted to 7-OH. They
oh
cannot
wow,
go more than 2 hours without chewing that chemically made pill. And it breaks my heart because these are grannies. These are grandmas and grandpas that are privately reaching out to me. And they're like, "I don't know what to do, Misty. I can't tell my kids. I can't tell my grandkids." And it breaks my heart. Cause I'm like, you're in your like late 60s and you never experienced active addiction, but here you are on something that was sold to you as a more potent form of kratom. It breaks my
oh
heart.
no, oh that's horrible. That's awful. And this 7-OH is available, like you said, in gas stations, anywhere. Is this true, like, in every state? Like, how pervasive is
Even
it?
in illegal
Every, it,
states. Even in
Wow.
yeah.
illegal states, it's available.
But yet the natural plant, the real plant is not.
Yep,
Is that correct?
correct.
Just like it's so upside down. It's crazy. So, but can people get kratom now? Like, I guess it depends on where they live, but I mean, is it available online? I mean, like if you live in a state that banned it, can you still order it online from somewhere else? Like, oh God. Okay.
No legit kratom vendor will risk their businesses to ship to an illegal state, and I say legit kratom vendor.
Okay.
So where I always I'm not vendor sponsored. I don't do what I do for any profit at all. I'm not even monetized on my social media. I do this out of pure passion. But I always direct people to americankratom.org, and then you click on their GMP participants vendor list that they have on there. Those are the vendors that are doing the FDA guidelines, manufacturing. Not
Okay.
FDA approved, FDA guidelines. Like
Right.
our dietary supplement, our vitamins in the
Sure.
store have to follow FDA guidelines. These people are following the good manufacturing practices as well.
Okay. No, that's great. So there is I'm going to put everything in the show description too, because if anybody listening is dealing with chronic pain and wants to figure out if they can get kratom to help
But if
them.
you live in
So,
Wisconsin, Indiana, Alabama, Arkansas, Vermont, now Connecticut, now Louisiana, you cannot order.
oh my gosh. Wow.
Rhode Island
That's from
overturned their
the
ban.
vendor.
Rhode Island's ban over reversal. That ban is overturned and it goes into effect April 1st, 2026. It is not an April Fool's joke.
Oh, that's
So
awesome.
if you
There
live in
are,
Rhode
Okay.
I think there's 19 states that have passed kratom consumer protection laws.
there's
So
20.
yeah, wherever we're at, but now these kratom danger awareness people are pushing back, and they're starting to reverse a lot of the gains we've made. It's a mess right now, and it's most of it's misinformation, misplaced anger and frustration, and everybody
Weaponized
pays
greed.
for it. Yeah,
Mhm.
it's crazy,
Weaponized greed.
and the
Mhm.
criminal justice system going to get bigger and larger off of a plant, and more families are going to be ruined. It's insanity 101.
Yeah, like with Marshall Price's family, now they have to live with that generational trauma of their dad being murdered inside of a jail that I'm so deep in that case and Shayna Brown's case as well, but I watched the jail cam footage. It saw the autopsy. I always the autopsy photos is what's I do not want to get emotional, but those autopsy photos is what sticks with me the most because I'm just an everyday person that doesn't need to see stuff like that. But because I'm so vested in this case and getting justice for Marshall Price, that was I made myself look at these autopsy photos. And it's like and I'm sitting there thinking, here I am the day that I saw the autopsy photos, right? I'm sitting here thinking, here I am. I just opened my cupboard that morning to freely take my kratom, and he was just going to go get his kratom, and his sentence was a death sentence
Oh
that
my
he didn't
God.
even know. And it's like, something's got to be done. I mean, now his family has filed a federal lawsuit. They will go to court in February. I think it's February 2nd, 2027. So I don't know if I'm pretty sure I might have to go to that court hearing. You know, it's like nobody needs to be locked up for a freaking tea leaf. Nobody gets locked up
Yeah.
for their Earl Greys, or their green
Right.
teas or their black teas, their Starbucks. Oh my God, I need to calm down because I'm gonna start getting.
I think it's ignorance and greed. I mean, I think that it's probably more greed because I think they know that there's a difference and that there's nothing wrong with kratom. But again, it's regulatory capture. I mean, hate to say lobbying, but it's pharma. I mean, again, let's go back to 2020 and like the past 6 years. If you don't think pharma runs the show, you haven't been paying attention.
Well,
And
the
Well,
it's
they,
reason
time to
why,
like,
at FDA, they're trying to ban using the DEA. They're trying to schedule 7-OH as we speak, and they made it
yeah,
real clear. Look, we're not trying to schedule kratom. They've already proven by congressional law that they passed the safety profile test. But everybody that hates kratom jumps on that as well because there's a trace amount of 7-OH in the natural kratom plant that counts. So now,
yeah,
we're fighting that battle. I
yeah,
think there's a little difference between a trace amount and a chemical. Okay, big difference.
100%. Yeah.
Four,
and
four, four 7-OH capsules equal 12 grams of kratom leaf. I mean, 12 kilograms. A
yeah,
10 gallons of dry leaf equals 4 pills. So
yeah.
how do you figure that?
Yeah.
What idiot doesn't think there's a difference there?
And so, I mean, it's true that when we consume the kratom, our liver will convert it into 7-OH, but that's self-limiting. It's
Mm.
all the alkaloids and metabolites like Dr. McCurdy says, playing what is it? Symphony orchestra in your body. So the 7-OH tabs that are out here that are chemically manipulated bypasses the liver metabolism part. Oh, so John, it's correct. It's a get high
Thing.
product. And I
Yeah.
have had thousands of dollars of free samples in my hands. And not one part of me was like, let me go to the bathroom and let me go try these. Or let me take these back to my hotel room and see if I'm gonna get high like I used to on oxys. You know? That's how
Now,
recovered I
now
am.
7-OH, it does work for those chronic pain people, and they're using those as good advocates for them. But the truth is, a lot more. Most of it being abused by people got no business taking it. So
Yeah.
I told the
It's a
7-OH
drug.
people, you also sell that. Sell it behind the counter at the pharmacy like Sudafed. Don't even
Yeah, it's a
expose
drug,
the
and it
general
needs to go through the
population to it.
proper drug trials.
Yeah.
It really does. There might be some future to it. Let the FDA get their hands on that, but can they honestly get their hands on that if whole leaf kratom is freely still available? So my conspiracy theory brain thinks as well, it was this purposely put on the market so that they could finally get kratom put in the Schedule 1 drug, so they could finally make their drugs to profit from.
Mm.
That's why I said
Makes
the
sense to
FDA
me,
uses
Misty.
7-OH as a cudgel against
Yeah,
kratom.
yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
And I've raised that question before, with the researchers and the kratom researchers and scientists, and they were like, "Well, Missy, if that's the case, I don't think that they would have done it this messy because it's the way 7-OH came to the market is extremely messy, extremely messy." Oh, I don't know. Who
Wow. Well,
The
knows?
what would you
same
guys
people that think
go ahead,
the
John.
7-OH, 7-OH people, they did the same thing to cannabis and hemp. They deltafied it.
Yep,
So now they're deltafying the kratom plant, and it just never ends good when you do that stuff.
they molested the molecule.
It's a great way of putting that's a perfect description.
Yeah.
Molested a molecule. Yeah. I like that. I'm gonna remember that. So so what if like for anyone listening to this, like what do you recommend if somebody's listening that's in chronic pain? Is kratom still available? It depends on their state. Okay. So we went through the states. What can people do? Let's say they're in a state where they can't get it. What can they do to get involved to try to turn this around and get their state
Join
to
a volunteer with the American Kratom Association. You can just go to their website,
okay.
and they're looking for advocates.
Let
Start
me
there. In your locality, just tell the truth to your local politicians and your state politicians. But American Kratom Association, American Veterans for Kratom Safe, just
Okay.
join these groups that are advocating.
I
I'm
wanted to
gonna
make
put all
sure
of
I
them in the
give you
show
the
notes.
correct link. So it's protectkratom.org/join.
Yeah,
That's where you can sign up about
protectkratom.org.
Kratom Safe.
Okay.
And then we
Just
got
send them the
Laura
link.
Romney,
Yeah.
because the AKA pretty much focuses on the state level stuff, but then I'm involved with, Heidi, Laura, and Melody, and some other advocates, Jennifer Gillis, and John. John's in the emails too. But
Yeah.
we deal with the locality hearings, and so if you want to, help keep kratom safe in your communities, state or city, cities countywide,
Mm.
then email Laura at,
Have her email
you got it? Okay.
plantsandherbals.org. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes, I
you gotta
remember. Yes. Yeah.
email your name, city, and state to Laura at plantsandherbals.org.
Yeah. Listen, I've been to enough like local township meetings to know that those people are the definition of petty tyrants. They're
Yeah.
I was at one in Pompano several years ago. They were the most obnoxious, arrogant people. So we need to keep bothering them,
Yep.
because they need to listen.
I mean, just join one of these groups, and get involved, because if you do nothing, you're going to be, penalized and criminalized down the road.
Yeah, and I mean, and I'm not wishing this on anyone, but all it takes is one accident or one something to happen for somebody to start dealing with chronic pain, and you want to have a product like Kratom available. Obviously, you guys are. I mean, no one here is high. It's
No.
It's just it's just so infuriating. And again, I mean, it's just I think it's part of the whole medical freedom battle.
Yeah.
And people having the free will to choose what works for them. And here we
I
have a
took
safe
my kratom
product.
at 9 this morning. I'm in Colorado, so but
Yeah.
I know you guys are 2 hours ahead of me. But yeah, I'm not nodding off. I'm not slurring my speech. You know, I'm, you know, oh my gosh, just saying that just makes me remember how my kids explained to me how I was like in active addiction. They'd be like, "Mom, you would slur your speech so bad." I'm like,
Oh,
"Man, my poor kids." I put my kids through hell, excuse my language, but I did. You know, they're 27, 24, and 21 now. So I felt like I accidentally found Kratom at the perfect time in their life, to where they didn't hold no grudges against me. I'm not the only way that I could prove to them because not enough I'm sorry's in the world is gonna
yeah.
cover what I put them through. So the only way that I do it is just each day do better. Each day I'm doing better. They don't have to worry about coming home and finding me passed out on the floor, you know, naked in my front lawn. That
Oh my
happened before,
gosh. Wow.
so
Well,
Kratom
that's
saved my life,
yeah.
Kratom saved me.
Oh, wow, I love it. I love it. Well, I wanna thank you both for joining me. Is there anything else that we didn't cover that you guys wanna mention before we sign off today?
Just
Um,
I was just gonna say, if you follow the science and stay away from ideology,
Mhm.
just stick with that, and at least let the truth be told, and know people are deliberately violating the truth.
yeah.
So
We're at this tipping point right now where 11 senators signed a letter to Congress to because the FDA, HHS, and DEA, at that press conference in July 29th, 2025, they said they're not going after the natural leaf. They're only targeting, synthetic 7-OH to try to get that scheduled. I don't know what scheduling category, but so far nothing has happened from that. We're waiting for the DEA to make an announcement. But because of that, 11 senators have signed a letter to Congress that they want Kratom included into that
Mm.
scheduling process. So now we're at a tipping point. We're at a boiling point. It's about to pop. So we need people to, oh man, let me find that website too. So we need people to go to this website.
the Hill Day coming up next month, I think.
Yeah, there
But
is.
yeah.
There's gonna yeah. And you know me, I'm gonna gather donations to get my butt out there.
So, let me ask you, what
And
happens if these senators succeed and they bring this to a vote and they ban it, so then it just won't be available anywhere? Nobody will be able to
Yeah,
get it.
nobody will be able to
it'd be
get
a
it.
federal ban like cannabis,
Oh,
federal ban.
okay. Ah,
Yep.
that's rough.
I'm sorry it's taking me a minute.
Well, I really hope it doesn't come to that. People need to get involved.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Exactly. I've been advocating. I never thought that after I found Kratom that I would have to be saving what's saving me. Never did that ever cross my mind. So I got into kratom advocacy almost close to the not long after I found kratom. So almost all these 7 years, I attend hearings, I testify at hearings. Ever since that press conference happened in July last year, I've probably attended and or testified via virtually about 200 hearings. That has never happened in my 7 years of advocacy. And it's because of 7-OH. These communities are having problems with 7-OH, and they're saying it's kratom because when we ask them, "Well, what is the store selling?" They'll say, "Oh, it's a wall with these blister packs." There's a and then they'll say, "Well, kratom was pushed out and 7-OH was pushed in." But they wanna do a full blanket ban because they ain't gotta worry about nothing else. They don't wanna enforce it. And then I'm thinking, "Well, how are you gonna enforce a ban if you don't wanna enforce regulate?" Like, if you can it really irks me.
Yeah, if you got the power to ban, you got the power to regulate. Come
You
on.
got the power
Right.
to enforce.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But so the newest one, because it's called Contact Congress, Keep Kratom Safe, Say No to Kratom Scheduling. So it's AmericanAdvocacy.org. So
AmericanAdvocacy.org. Okay.
that is what's vital right now. Because if those 11 senators gonna sign a bill to
Yeah,
alert
don't even
Congress, like, well, come on, man. Like back in
Mm.
2016, the scheduling didn't even go through. And then I think they tried again in 2018 or something like that. And then they tried to get the World Health Organization to schedule it. The World Health Organization said there's not enough evidence to schedule it. You know, so we need a public outcry. We need a
Yeah,
public outcry.
absolutely. Well, Misty, I'm so glad that you know that you're doing so well and that you are now advocating for this. I mean, I really thank you for joining me today. And is there any way people can follow you on social media? Like, I want to put all your social media sites in the show description so they can
I
connect
have
with you.
very unique social media name, so
Yeah,
it's because I've been banned a couple times. I was like,
I'm
"You know what?
sure.
I'm gonna go on bitch mode now." But I go by the, like, THATTEA, Bish. So, the
Okay.
T Bish. And then, so THATEABISHHH,
Okay.
the T Bish.
Is that on X or
I got, yeah, on
Facebook?
Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. I got banned on Facebook last June because of my Kratom advocacy. So,
Yeah, not surprising. I know Melody was talking about that. That like she's on LinkedIn, and that's the one platform where she seems like she can publish
yeah.
research and studies, and they don't bother her. So, but
After I got
Facebook's
banned on Facebook, I joined LinkedIn, and so I'm Misty Brown on LinkedIn.
Misty Brown on
Uh,
LinkedIn. Okay.
LinkedIn is such a different environment, let
Yeah,
me
it
tell
truly
you.
is.
It's like nothing but professional talk, like office talk, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
So, I know how to behave on LinkedIn, but on my other social media platforms, I'm just myself, you know?
Well, I'm following you on all of them. So,
Okay,
all right.
okay,
But thanks, Misty, again, and we will be talking to you soon. Let me know anything happens, newsworthy. You want to come back and give an update? Please stay in touch
okay,
with me.
okay,
I
I
love
will,
that.
Daria. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. Have a great evening or great day.
You too.
Actually, you're 2 hours behind me. Take care.
Alright, bye, Daria.
Hi, I'm Dr. Liz. I just want to tell you how amazing and easy it was to work with Daria on my book. You see, I've had a book for a while, been sitting on my desk, sitting on my computer. Maybe you might be able to relate to that. And I didn't know what to do, how to take it to the next step, how to make it look polished and edited and easy and useful for my readers. Met with Daria. We had some great conversations. She learned my voice, my goal, my style, and she was able to edit and give me feedback on how to make my message clearer, more focused, polished, and it worked. I have a book. In fact, I have a book and a workbook that she's edited for me and guided me along the pathway. So if you're maybe a little bit like me, that you have a book or you have an idea and you haven't known where to take it, how to take it to the next stage, reach out to Daria. She's a game changer and she's really easy to work with and takes great pride in her work as well. So join me in the publish author arena. Reach out to Daria. I'm Dr. Liz.